Hey, Crawlspacers, welcome to our ASM show. Let's introduce the panel who we have for this month. We've got Canada's own Josh, Winnipeg Webhead. What's going
Hey
on,
guys, doing good. It's gonna be fun.
buddy? We've got one issue. We don't have much to talk about, but there's lots of happening in the issue that I imagine we can fill an hour, can't we?
Oh yeah.
We also enjoyed her appearance. This is her third appearance. Christina, what's going on? Welcome back, Christina.
Round two, here we go.
Round two to talk about ASM. There we go. And we also have Mike. What's going on, Mike?
Well, I am a little bit saddened that there's someone is still sticking around after he almost got Gwen Stacy. But
I thought you were talking about JR.
No.
He's unfortunately not on the episode this month, but
he probably is probably a good thing, because he probably would have just been, probably just wouldn't have been like, what, probably would have, we would have seen some interesting JR goodness if he had stuck around for
we would have.
Yes. Oh, very
and
much so.
We have plenty of Sarah goodness. What's going on, Sarah?
It's going well.
It's going well. Do you still have your party streamer?
We don't talk about that, Brad.
Oh, that was a whole episode ago. We aren't bringing that props back. Do we have a new prop for this episode, Sarah? What do we have? We have Spidey guitar.
Yay!
Oh, is that a Mark Bagley art on the front of that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Ultimate Spider-Man art. Play it. Can you? I know this is impromptu. Can you play the Spider-Man theme song on it?
It sounds like this guitar sounds like shit. So I mean, if you really want me to,
Thanks for the warning.
Look at how small it is, right? Like,
yeah, a little baby guitar.
It doesn't have a good sound. So
okay.
No, I would rather smash it than play it.
Well, you are a rock star then. All right. We got Matt Bird in the house in chat. Let's see. Andrew's here back. CB Cebulski got booed at.
Because it was the. I think it would have been either it was yesterday's panel at the New York City Comic Con, or I don't know if he was on the one today.
What? Why was he booed?
Something about Paul and MJ and Peter. Sorry.
Yeah. A very, very appropriate segue to go into this issue.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Josh, you've got this issue. We've got one this month. We've got ASM 929 Legacy, right? Whoops.
Yes. All right. It's time to channel my inner JR. All right, boys and girls. So we are starting with the most heebie-jeebie inducing cover there. If you want to pull up that cover again, I really like this cover. It is.
I
really
do too.
Nice.
It looks sick.
And like Brad, it'll definitely boost up my grade for the issue. But just totally very spooky, scary, very fitting for this month. So we start with this cover, and we open with our hero, Norman Osborn, playing with Kraven's shaft. No, I'm not. No, I'm not making stuff up. That is legitimately what happens in this issue and what he calls it. And this is not normal Kraven. This is Kraven 87. The clone, the 87th clone, who watches in judgment. Kraven doesn't like guns. He knows they often destroy the ones who wield them. Meanwhile, we then cut to Hammerhead and his goons, who kill a bunch of dudes, but they're going to blame someone else. Actually, two someone else's, and they're going to tell this to two other someone else's. This highly convoluted plan shows that Hammerhead is ready to bring the hammer down on this war of gangs. One might call it a gang war, coming to comic book stores near you, November 2023.
In 75 parts, if you like it or not. Yeah.
Yet another unnecessary, massive crossover event, bleeding my pockets dry. Moving on. Okay, so we get to the main part of the story where we have Evil Peter, Gobby Mommy, MJ, and Mr. Man Bun himself, Chi-Town's favorite, Paul, all in a big stand down. Peter is filled with hate. Yes, Peter, use your hatred. And he throws 18 feet of steel ribbed rail right into Gobby Mommy's side.
Oof.
Yeah, major oof. Then I love this part because Spidey then looks over at Paul, MJ, and goes, Paul, a word. And
here, let's take a look at this. That is one of my favorite parts too. Paul, a word.
So yeah. And okay, so MJ tells Paul to run, and he's going to square off against Peter with her casino spinning plot device bracelet of potential doom. So she says, he goes, whoa, where'd you get that thing? Oh, right. He gave it to you. The weasel who took you from me. But MJ is a big girl, and she's not going to take any of Evil Peter's crap. So Peter yells so hard you can actually see his mouth through the mask.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, you can.
out of nowhere, boom, return of Gobby Mommy. She attacks evil Peter and threatens to tear Norman Osborn's sins out of his throat. Then MJ, having zero regard for secret identities, quite loudly says, "No one's killing Peter Parker today," and throws a deck of mystical cards around Gobby Mommy's throat, throwing her away.
Let me show you that. There you go.
I do got to pause here because, wow, Gleason's art is phenomenal here. I really like this panel. This is a really nice page here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we cut to Peter giving Paul a wedgie as he goes up the bridge to throw him off. He's going to Gwen Stacy him, but MJ catches him as Kraven gets ready to fight evil Peter. We then have Norman Osborn show up and tell MJ, "I enjoyed getting to know you, Mary Jane," which must have happened off panel because that has not at all been shown for the last 34 issues of this run, but I digress. So we have Kraven 87 and evil Peter tussling around. Peter's gaining the upper hand, and it's all a big distraction that Kraven 87's putting on as evil Peter headbutts him again and again, because for Kraven 87, he has overcome his father. And with this very intense look in Peter's eyes, Kraven bear hugs Peter and just cracks his back as Norman takes the spear and stabs him in the back, literally, and the sins fly out of Peter and into the spear, or so we think. So after
there's the panel you're talking about, right?
Yes,
That's pretty.
Yes, very. Again, Gleason was just killing it with the art in this entire comic. So Peter and MJ hug, and you get a couple panels there that legitimately do look like Peter and MJ are a couple, which is just very weird considering, you know, her boyfriend just got tossed off of whatever. So Peter assures her that she didn't do anything wrong. Kraven leaves. Gobby Mommy flies away, smiling, which concerns Norman. And we then cut to kind of the aftermath here. So Peter and Norman have a FaceTime call. Norman is telling Peter, "It's not your fault. You know, it wasn't really you." And we see Randy on the television here. This is bringing us into the big crossover gang war event. Something needs to be done. Norman tells Peter to get some rest. Peter just straight up ignores him. He says, "This is the perfect way to take care of my guilt, is to go out and swinging." And then yet another gorgeous
Look at that
splash
thing.
page here. This
So
I'm not even
pretty.
like typically a fan of the big spider eyes, but this is beautiful. This is just
Mhm.
a phenomenal splash page here. Well done, Gleason. And then we have a little bit of a closer here where we close off with Norman. He's realizing the sins may have not actually gone back to the spear Kraven 87 buried, but back to him instead. With an evil sneer, our hero Norman Osborn lets out a singular heh, and is horrified of what he has just done. To be continued.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's just the story. Then we have the letters pages. Oh my word.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yep.
This,
Get
this
ready.
letter.
Hold
This
on to your
letter,
butts.
yep.
There,
Yeah.
I will not read the entirety of this thing, but
Yeah.
basically, this first letter is something. Basically, it is going over everything our podcast and every other Spidey fan online has been saying on the interwebs, like what, for the last 15 years, just saying how, why don't we have Peter and MJ together? Should be, well, let's just undo one more day already. You know, we have Superman has a kid, Superman has a wife. Why can't Spider-Man? Like Spider-Man, MJ are
If
the
you
next.
boil that letter down, it's why doesn't Peter grow? If that's
Exactly.
the sentence,
Why are
doesn't
we
Peter
having
grow?
Why
Yeah.
aren't we having Peter Parker actually grow up and not be stuck just
And-
constantly in the same?
And they
rut?
don't answer that in the comment. do
No, the entire so
they? At all.
at all. Marvel editorial completely ignores it and just focuses on the minute. Oh, you worded it a little that we don't get tens of thousands of letters, and well, you know, we only get about a dozen. Which, I mean, to their credit, they probably only do get a dozen letters because
Guess what?
because
They're
people
about
have
to get a lot
stopped
more
caring.
of.
Yeah. So like, it's a little ridiculous. Like it's just completely ignored.
It is.
Higher letter there, which is done in a very respectful way. Like there's no malice
I
or
would agree.
intent at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, just completely ignored and just said, well, you know, that's not exactly the metrics we would use.
Mhm.
And
What
that's,
would be a better rebuttal, Josh, to that letter? Is like, hey, I think I disagree that he's not growing.
Mhm.
Would be, hey,
Literally
we're making him
saying
do X, Y, and
anything.
Z.
Anything else? Yeah.
anything
And
else.
cite actual stories.
Yes,
That would be for one. Yeah. Like show examples. Like, okay, You say that he hasn't, you say grown. Well, here's some stories where he actually has. They can even cite some, they really wanted to, they could cite some, they could cite some Dan Slott stuff, even though, yeah, they got undone. But I mean, but you could certainly argue that he at least was doing some growth in that thing. So that would be the most logical thing to do. It'd be
actually
like,
citing some stuff.
Cite Norman Osborn's turn, and here it's like maybe how the relationship between Peter and Norman's has changed. Something that could be like obviously not. Obviously we can. Obviously I think the first letter has merit because Spider-Man is stuck in amber. Ironically, because of One More Day, but. It is something that you could do something besides doing the whole spin like, well, we respectfully disagree, but thank you for reading, and you'll stay tuned, all that stuff. So,
well, what else
if
is
they
he
would have
supposed to
actually addressed
say?
it.
Yeah, true.
Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, it is. You can. I mean, that's the thing. You can't put a happy face on it beside because it is. You're right, Sarah. There is. You can't say like, oh, well, we totally agree with you because they're putting out a product, but there is ways of actually saying it without being too kind of like, oh, sorry, you feel the generic, oh, sorry, you feel that way kind of response. I mean, there's but there's other ways of actually doing it in terms of like, if corporate PR
if Marvel's being absolutely transparent, and if they were to reply to this letter, here is what they would say. Hey, you know what? We think it makes the character look old. We don't want the character to look old. We want him to be Charlie Brown. We want to have the illusion of age. And by marrying him, I think that will make him look old, which is what our goal is not to do.
Which is ironic because given what happened with the Ultimate Spider-Man announcement that happened today.
Well, they're fine with doing an alternate version. They don't want the main Spider-Man to appear aging at all, which is what he did during the 70s and the 80s and the 60s even. He graduated college, or high school, in how many issues? 20 or 30?
Yep.
So if they were, I think the letter, the reply the fans want is, hey, this is why we do it. We don't want him to look old. We want him to continuously be recycling plots. He's still in grad school. He's still circling Mary Jane. Oh, they broke up. Oh, he's circling Mary Jane again. He's coming back around. I mean, that's what he's been doing for 20 to 30 years.
Now, do we have to agree with it? No, but at least they're being candid about it.
Yeah, but they aren't being candid with it. They avoided the forest and they hit all the trees. I mean, but if they did reply, because you got to play PR with Marvel. If they did that would enrage the fans and there would be bleeding cool articles everywhere that, hey, Marvel is making Spider-Man stuck in a cyclical loop and they're not aging him. They don't want to do that. That's bad PR. So they avoid the topic.
Welcome to comic books, because that's kind of the
stuff. We have to have an illusion of change. However, the change is that we're getting older. And comic books are aimed at the older group, over 20, 25, I would even say. Not many kids are picking up comic books, even after having the most popular movie in the world. Not Avatar, but But if the fans are demanding it, do we not get what Stan Lee says we get? Does it not say what's on the front of a lot of comics? But we demanded it. And they're saying we aren't demanding it in mass numbers.
Well, that's because, especially in letters pages, because you talk about, well, yeah, maybe they're not getting enough letters. They certainly probably get enough tweets, Facebook posts, YouTube videos, comments on even on the CBR.
I've read that they don't consider that stuff legit unless it's handwritten.
Well, which is weird because there's so many, because there in terms of an online presence these days, it's probably, I would imagine, yes, you're going to get a lot more of the fandom that is probably, it's going to be the very vocal fandom, but it's certainly a lot more prevalent than, say, in terms of communication, than say like just basically writing a letter out, sending it off these days. I mean, that's,
Now, Josh, do you think this will incite a handwritten and email into him complaining about, did we spark the fire again?
So, okay, if the comics are supposed to be targeted towards my generation, the younger, we're trying to get the younger people in to read them.
What, 18 to 25? Wouldn't they love that? They think
We
they have
don't
the-
write letters. I've never even bought stamp. Like,
But you don't have to do that. You can just email them. It's the
we
same.
don't do emails. We watch YouTube videos. We send text messages. No one even phone calls anymore. So like if Marvel wants to get a grasp of what like the younger generation is like, how they feel about it, go on YouTube, go on TikTok, watch how we react on there, as opposed to people that are sending in letters or emails, or even still, especially demonstrated by the first guy in the letter pages, are feeling that way and are wanting One More Day to Be Undone, are wanting Peter to grow as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Christina, what's your thoughts on that letter and the response?
I just think a lot of the times, Nick Lowell, he's just not seeing necessarily the right things to it, and I know it's like you're not really sure how he should say something like that, but this, like you said, this might be the spark that's maybe this whole One More Thing days starting to click, but I'm not really sure. So
we got so distracted by the letters pages, we didn't even do the pros, we didn't do the cons, we didn't do the grade. Josh, you enraged me. I'm about to send an email to you.
I know.
Josh, what's your grade, sir?
Okay. I'll give it a B+.
Okay. Mike, grade.
C-.
Ooh, Sarah.
I gave it an A.
Okay. Christina.
B+.
B+. I give it an A-.
Oh, okay.
SoFlo gives it a B+. Tevia gives it an F. Brian gave it a C. Mr. Comics gives it an A+ in chat. So what else? Do we have any other A+? A- for the arc, says SoFlo. Do we have any other grades in chat? A+, we did that. Bruce gave it an A. Hornacek gave it an A-. D, the Netta gives it a D. So Josh, pros, what'd you like?
Okay. A lot of this arc has seemingly been like, or a lot of Zeb Wells' run has kind of been like compared to other parts of Zeb Wells' run. So in terms of this run, this is definitely one of the better arcs that we've gotten out of anything that Wells has written for his time on the ASM title. I really liked having this big change in Peter. Like, okay, we have evil Peter. This could actually go somewhere. It doesn't really. Like, Paul gets thrown off a bridge and then caught immediately. That's it. So like it did start very strong. I don't feel I think it actually should have went on longer. This is an arc that I feel like could have panned out a bit more, but the premise is really, really cool. Also, Gleason's art is phenomenal in this thing. He has so many great panels there. And like, he's awesome too. I think on Twitter, he was like, I really loved this comic, this issue, because I got to make this really cool moment between these two characters that I'm forever going to cherish and blah, blah, blah. And that's just a picture of Peter giving Paul a wedgie, which is just awesome.
Yeah. Oh, here. I don't think I showed that. I was looking at the wrong panel. There's the wedgie.
Oh, just right. Yeah.
Look, there's even a star. If your wedgie is so strong, you have a star fly out of your butt. That is a strong wedgie.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the art's an A+.
Yeah,
I love Romita Jr. too, but I'll take Gleason. I'll take him rotating with Romita Jr.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful looking art.
Beautiful.
Other pros. Let's go around. Who has some pros?
I think interestingly enough, Craven actually he's probably one of the few characters in this whole thing that gets an actual arc. Because the whole idea is that he's essentially, yes, even though he's wearing the mantle of the original Craven the Hunter, he kind of becomes the realization, I am actually not my father. I can be my own version of Craven without, and saying that especially when he's talking about how he actually for instance, when he was given the choice of basically whether or not to actually, pull a Craven, like Craven's Last Hunt thing, like what he did with the shotgun thing, he says, no, I actually didn't do that. I actually tried to survive. I tried to get out, and I realized that I'm actually stronger than my father. It's like, oh, that's some decent stuff here. And he realized, and he's kind of like, and he kind of, I'm not sure this will necessarily make him a good guy necessarily, but it's definitely one of those things where he kind of like, oh, here's a character who as it's an interesting concept that here he is a guy who's a literal clone, and he actually becomes his own person, which is like that's actually kind of neat. I mean, granted, there's some other stuff about it I'm not particularly care for. I mean, but I do think that actually was, to me, was like one of the stronger moments about this thing. Like, about this. So, and it goes back to the whole Craven/Hunt inversion thing too, in a way too. It's like because here you have this Craven comes out, becomes a stronger person, as opposed to Craven, the original Craven, who they're like, oh, I have to go out like a sad sack essentially because or try to redeem myself.
I agree. That is a pro. It made the character better. He's just he's not totally a Ben Reilly.
Yeah, exactly.
How is Craven's clone having a better story arc than Spider-Man?
Because Craven can get old and die. Spider-Man can't. That's why. Christina, what'd you like about that's not been said?
Well, basically everything that's been said, I wrote in my notes. The Patrick Gleason artwork, the panels that stuck out on 16 when he's getting stabbed and all the sins are going back into him, and then you see the Goblin's face. The panel on 19 where it's Spider-Man black in his red or blue suit and swinging. I am wondering though, and I think it might have been you, Mike, that mentioned it last time. This might be setting up an arc for Peter in a gang war where he's trying to make up for all the stuff that happened this time.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of that.
Yes. And then basically Craven overcoming his darkness, realizing that he's not his father. He didn't cave in. He didn't kill himself. And so that was a nice arc to see that, I thought. And then I thought it was a nice wrap up and stuff, because I noticed with a lot of these events that they do, they start off strong and usually land on a dud. I didn't think I thought it was a pretty good wrap up.
Right. I don't know. I kind of agree with both of you and Josh. There's if you stretch it out, you run the risk of having a 17-part crossover of Evil Spider-Man, which is what Gang War sounds like. If you have a short and sweet 3-parter memorable story, Craven's Last Hunt was 6 parts. We're still talking about it. This one was a nice little 3. This was a nice little dinner. Gang War sounds like a Golden Corral buffet where you got your choice of what you want. You want a little Luke Cage? You want a little Daredevil? How about a little Elektra Daredevil? How about a little this? Anyway, I agree. Less is more sometimes. So, Sarah, pros, it was not been said.
One thing I really liked that has not been said, and I know lots of people don't like this character, and I understand. But I thought Paul he was like, Spider-Man, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? Like he could have been like, oh no, like I'm scared. Like, he could have been very upset, but I think he handled that situation very well as a character that everybody like craps on. You know what I mean? I saw that was cool. He was like, yeah, do what you got to do, man. Like whatever,
I guess I kind of agree with you. It did give a little bit of, okay, Paul, so you're not scared, huh? But the character is, we're not meant to like him. I guess, is that a bone that was thrown to make you like him just a smidge? I guess it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, but I did think it was really interesting because I expected his character to react a different way.
Yeah, that's true.
Seeing that was cool.
Yeah, I'll give you that. That's a pro. I agree. One pro I have, I just love these 2 panels right here with the giggle.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's my biggest pro because that just put a big old smile on my face when I saw a little bit of coming back.
Here's a question then.
Yeah.
Is this implying that, because you can actually look at this in 2 ways, especially if you're reading because Norman's narration throughout, whether he actually, the spear, when he stabs Peter, it actually gave him the sins back, or whether Norman still has the Green Goblin in him all this time, but it's just been suppressed.
I like the theory.
I'd go with the latter, actually.
And I think JR would agree. I don't want to speak for JR, but I think you can't eliminate everyone's sins, even in fiction, to pull them all out of you. You're either evil or a lot of people are in between. A lot of people are either good or evil. And with Norman, he's more evil, and you can't take evil out of everybody.
No, you can't. But I do think
in fiction.
I think it would be a huge redemption point for him to have those sins. And I don't know, maybe that's what's going to happen. I don't know. But to have those sins within him, but then overcome that, be like, I'm not going to be that person that I used to be, even with all of the things I've done. And, I think that would be better for the character, like in the long run, if they're going to make him switch to being a good guy,
Well,
or however
I
you want to say
I
it.
don't think Norman's redeemable though. He's murdered. He's been an abusive father. He's been a horrible husband, a horrible friend. I don't think he's redeemable, but he's fun to watch.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the thing is what they would do. It'd be interesting to take on this thing, like say, like, okay, maybe the spear absorbing the sins work, but Norman is still, the Green Goblin is still there, like Mr. Hyde almost.
Mhm.
That's why, and it's starting to come out a little bit again. So that's where I think
it'd
that'd
be great to
more
see Norman
interesting.
say, "I don't need these
Yeah.
sins. I've got enough
Mhm.
built up over the years. You can have
Right.
those." Like, I think that'd be awesome. He's like, ha 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 ha, he's back.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going. And if you think about it, Josh, to go with your point to stretch this out, this is a flip on Spider-Man in the fact that they've stretched this Norman good guy out. It's a flip of what this story is, which is
That is
Spider-Man is a
true.
bad guy.
Which I gotta say, in Wells's
Yeah.
run, that has been one of the best parts of
Yeah,
it, is watching the
agree.
Peter and Norman Osborn, which is insane, but just their dynamic has actually been
agree.
very well written.
Mhm.
All right. Any other pros we've not mentioned? All right, let's go to cons, Josh. What do you got?
Marvel editorial.
Yeah.
The letter page.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, bit of a lasting, like if we're gonna have Peter kind of going into gang war, like I gotta make up for some of the sins I committed. It would have been, if he would have beaten like Paul to a pulp, or like had something that was a little bit like he throws him off a bridge, MJ catches him, woohoo. Like that's kind of it. If there was like a very like dark thing that like Peter is now trying, like, I have to make up for this, like I can't believe I went that far, because he does say it was all me, like I it was still evil me, but it was me doing it.
Does it seem out of character this panel, like Mary Jane's so forgiving right here?
See, this is
I
where
don't
I'm going to
know.
get into. This is part of my big con with this. I mean, because a lot of the way they handled Peter and Mary Jane, and the mass murdering, Venmo account holding, man bun sporting jabroni known as Paul, but the way they hold, they're doing this thing with like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. It almost reads like, and especially with that other thing where Mary Jane says, "Oh, I'm a big girl. No one took me anywhere. Well, except for the fact that you were kidnapped by a mad mathematician with a, and thing." It almost reads like Zeb Wells was trying to basically saying to the, telling to the Spider-Man fans who are kind of opposed to the fact that Peter and MJ split up. He's saying, "Hey, you basement dwelling neckbeards, get over it."
You neckbeards.
Yeah, that just basically telling folks to get over this thing. I'm trying to tell the story and everything like this, just because, and just because I'm sure fairly well that people do not like Paul, that he's just he smoke in the wheel thing and stuff. It just kind of, the whole thing kind of read like he's almost like basically saying, "Hey, I don't have to apologize for what I'm doing. I know you hate this, but I'm not apologizing for it," which is why you have MJ acting like, basically, Erstad's Josh Whedon character in this, and also using Gambit powers with her Ben 10 wristwatch and stuff, and it just, everything about this kind of feels like, I mean, I did get a kick out of the fact that after Paul gets rescued, apparently he's completely forgotten about, but yeah, I mean, that thing with the doing anything wrong business. I mean, I get what they're trying. I mean, it almost seemed like the way that whole thing came across is, it felt like he was trying to justify like this whole thing with how they broke him up off panel thing. Although, and I do think it is funny that, here we get this Gleason image of, basically Peter, resting on her, using a bosom as a pillow kind of thing, and Paul's nowhere to be seen. It's like,
yeah.
That is, if you're not dating, that's kind of, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
the bosom pillow's only for dating.
Yeah. But the other thing, But the other thing was funny, was interesting about this was kind of like where I was kind of felt like I was where that whole thing where Peter is kind of worried, like, what are the repercussions? And then Norman goes, oh, they'll just blame it on Venom anyway. I'm like, you had a whole bunch of stuff blow up and everything. You had his mask being taken off and apparently, no one's gonna say anything about, hey, Spider-Man was causing all this stuff. I mean, doesn't seem like, and it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to swing off and be like happy thing. I mean, it's a great shot of him swinging off with putting the mask on, but at the same time, it feels kind of off because given what he just did, and it's like, and he literally tried to kill a guy. And so it's like,
your line about her yelling, because that's all in caps, and it's not a thought balloon, it's a yelling balloon. Mm-hmm. He's yelling his identity. And I don't think Ashley Kafka, Goblin Mommy, as Josh says, knows who he is.
Thank you, Neil.
And, well, Craven, I don't think does Craven even know? I don't think the new Craven
because
knows.
He takes his mask because the Peter who laughs basically takes his mask off at some point.
Peter
who laughs. Yeah, Peter does. So now you don't have to put two and two together. So the new Craven knows who he is.
Yes.
Mainly because Mary Jane's about to yell it.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm sure I'm sure Queen Goblin knows too, which, by the way, there's another thing. Since the Sins leave Peter and he's back to normal, the Sins left her, but she's still evil. I don't know how that works. I'm not sure how that works.
I don't know either.
It's magic. We don't have to explain it.
Let's explain it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, but I think but the main thing was just how to me, again, I could be guilty of reading too much into the thing, but it just felt like the whole thing where how he's trying to, it felt like the way he was handling the kind of the quasi fight between Peter and MJ in this. And it almost did read like he's trying to justify, like, hey, I don't have to, I'm not going to have to justify her relationship with Paul to you readers. I mean, it's, especially with Paul's line, like, I'm here, I'm not, you what you have to do, I'm here to stay kind of stuff. So it does feel a little bit, like he's channeling channeling a little bit of his frustration probably with the readers.
I forgot to mention one of my pros is we got rid of that ugly Osborne suit. We're back to classic red.
Oh, yes, that is true.
I mean, it's back. So, Christina Cons, what did you not like about the issue?
Well, when I first read it, it kind of seemed to me, and I know we were just talking about this, but it seemed to me that maybe the Sins went back into Norman Osborn. But after we were talking about it, I don't know, I'm kind of maybe leaning towards the other way that we were talking about, because I thought maybe if the Sins had gone back into him, I think we'd be doing another Goblin story, and it's like, oh Lord, here we go again. Mm-hmm. So but I'm leaning more towards the other way now that we've talked about it some more. And then the only other thing is, I think Paul's really outstayed him and his man bun has outstayed his welcome, because the kids are gone and they're just like drifting apart. It's like, why is he still here? So it's
even Mary Jane's like, run, get the hell out of this book. I mean, come on. Well, he's there to cause romantic.
It tries friction. Yeah, that's all he's there for.
Lovers. Yeah. I agree with you. Sarah, what's some cons out of you?
Nothing that hasn't been said. I just wish that story was a little longer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How long? How long is too long, and how short is too short a story? You got 3 issues here.
That's a good question. Done a 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on what they put in the story, like the quality of the story, like what exactly is being told and how are they handling it. I'd imagine 1 or 2 more issues could be enough, or I don't, it just depends.
Maybe the fallout of yelling his name at the top of her lungs with Mary Jane. Maybe there's fallout of that. I don't know.
There should be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And then we can make him make a deal with the devil to erase everyone remembering that.
Oh, brother.
All right. Chat, if you got some questions for us, we will answer them before we wrap this show up. Mm-hmm. Peter is the man, says Gary in the Frozen. How could MJ choose Paul over him? Actually, it's the writer did.
It's the Ben 10 wristwatch. That's Lily. Think about it. She doesn't have the kids. She doesn't have the fake kids anymore. So the only logical reason why she would be staying around is like because she's obligated. Because hey, I got a wristwatch that
Yeah, Paul's
From
good
him.
with the tools.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
Hornacek says, I wanted an issue where evil Peter was out of the suit trying to go through a normal day of Peter Parker's life.
That'd be
Eh.
cool.
That would have been interesting.
Ooh, that
That
would have
would've
been
been
good.
cool. Yeah.
Mean
I
to
would've liked that
Aunt
too.
May, mean to Jameson, mean to Robbie. Told Randy what he thinks. Like, what are you marrying that girl for? Come on,
Yes,
you know better.
that would have been
Oh,
really cool.
I
know
would
better.
have liked that. Yeah. That
What,
would've
the
been awesome.
first one didn't work out for you, Randy? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. Question: why does Marvel want Paul to exist?
We talked about that a little bit, right? It's
Yeah.
for conflict, like
Conflict. That's the conflict.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to like Paul, Tevye. He's not. Why you're? Yeah. He's
Well, in that
break up
case,
the
they're doing
lovers.
a really good job of it.
Yeah, he's doing a great job of us hating him. So he's doing a great
Mhm.
job. Get an A+, Paul. Is MJ out of character? Has she grown and matured? Says Danetta.
Well, I mean, I think, I would say that they're trying to, I think what they're trying to do here is that they're trying to emphasize, I think with Marvel's way they're doing this is they're trying to make it so that, again, they're doing this trend about having his Spider-Man supporting cast be superheroes. And I think they genuinely believe that by giving her superpowers, they can make her a viable character in her own right. Even though she's tied to Spider-Man, she can be,
And Mike, to sell a book.
and sell a
Sell
book.
a jackpot book, maybe an ongoing if it sells well.
Yeah. Because, it's the idea. I would say that you could say, because they would say that she kind of grew and matured a little bit because literally in her time in that limbo place. But it's the idea is, I think they do believe that by giving, like I said, that by giving her powers, this makes her feel like an independent character, even though she's still tied to Spider-Man. She's not actually with Spider-Man. Kind of like what happened with Flash Thompson becoming Agent Venom and then now Anti-Venom. And now you of course see, like, interesting enough, Flash Thompson barely appears in the comics anymore, does he?
Mike,
Because
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Look, they want to do it. They want a jackpot. They see the
Yeah.
variant covers. They're
Yep.
selling. They know Mary Jane's popular. They want
Mhm.
to say, hey, can we give her powers and give her an ongoing series?
Yeah.
They're trying it. Why not?
Yeah.
They want to make money.
They're doing it with Liz Allen right now.
It's so annoying though, because like, can we just leave some of their characters, some of Spider-Man's characters, whether they be main characters or side characters, or can we just leave them alone and let them live their life as normal people? Like,
Yeah,
can
we
just
have
do that?
no more normal people in these books.
Yeah, who is normal? Randy and
No, he's not even normal. He's dating a supervillain.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Jonah, well, kind of, I guess, unless you count that, unless he becomes
and he's got Doc Ock Arm's pet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Aunt May, unless she gets reverted back to the golden oldie. Again.
No, she's the
Herald of
Black Widow.
Blackness.
She's the Black Widow. She kills all of her mates.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yep.
MJWP says you can tell Gleason's a big Peter and Mary Jane fan,
You
especially
can,
considering
yeah.
what he tweeted.
Oh yes. Yeah.
What did he
very much.
tweet? What are you talking about?
He flipped the wedgie with Paul.
Oh, that's right.
The wedgie. And yeah, I would also add that if they wanted to get a new writer on, because we've seen Patrick Gleason during the Spider-Man Beyond do some writing chores too, so he could easily do it. Yeah,
he did the one where a Black Cat and Captain America are like helping Peter get back on his feet, right?
right. There was also another
That
one
was
where
amazing.
There was another one where he did with Peter was in the hospital and having some kind of a visions or something like that too, like a hallucination thing.
Yeah.
Answer the nett's question. I just had this thought. Yes, Mary Jane has matured. She had a character arc. She became a mom. She got in a new relationship. She grew by losing children she cared for as a stepmom or whatever, as an adopted mother. So yes, in the span of, in this universe, several years have passed. She's been with another dude. And yes, that is character change. That has changed the character. Like it or not, the character has changed because of the events that happened in this.
Yep.
Peter has been spinning his wheels and not in the time that Mary Jane has moved. Like it or not, the character is different. Now, if they keep the character, if you never hear Mary Jane say about the two twins again, or the kids again, and Paul after he exits, but if you're going by real life, the character should have changed. But anyway.
Yep.
Netta, Mary Jane's jackpot origin sucks. Hey, here's a wristwatch, new from Apple. They need a Spider family of books to sell like the Bat. They already do, bro. Miles, Superior, Spider Boy.
Renew your vows.
Come check out the
Yeah.
Patreon where we
Silk.
review
Oh
all
my
of them.
God.
Gwen,
yeah.
Spider Gwen.
Sell
I
it,
mean,
Josh.
yeah.
I like that.
yeah, that's like, yeah, exactly. Like what Josh said.
Hornacek, to paraphrase, Syndrome, if everyone has powers and no one has powers. Chi-Town's in the house watching. Sarah, editorial wants superpowered variants to sell. There you go.
Oh, I know.
Well, the other thing too is, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm sure I mentioned this before, but you have all these, if you have all these Spider-Man supporting characters getting powers, and then you've got, or being Venomized or what have you, they'll do the Spider-Verse versus Venomverse thing. I'm sure it's going to happen someday.
Tevye wants to know, what was the purpose of the storyline with evil Peter Parker? What were the consequences for the story? So then, what was the point? Well, we haven't seen the consequences yet. He may have some consequences. I don't know.
I mean, if there is no ramifications from this, like, then I'd say, yeah, you have it. Then I would say that this feels like, what is the point of the thing? But if it, like, say like in the next issue we were getting with Rec Rap, Spider, which is
Recrap.
Right, whatever you pronounce his name.
$4.99 recrap.
But if you do get some, like, maybe some little tidbits about Peter reminiscing on the fact that, oh, I did this kind of stuff and everything like this, and I'm trying to get over it. Maybe then you'll have, because logically
Well, that's one thing that Spencer did well. He looked what Slott did.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? Doc Ock got a college degree. What are the consequences of your villain getting that degree that you weren't able to get in 25 years?
Right.
Or whatever it took for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that he made Peter have consequences of Doc Ock's actions. Now, remember, Mike, we covered it years ago where during Superior, where Peter killed a dude as Ock.
Yes.
That guy with a 10 plate or whatever.
Massacre. Yeah.
Massacre. He killed. He never had any consequences.
They never talk about it.
Never talked about it.
I mean, it was shown. It was literally shown on live television. If you read the comic, it's that thing. Like, and apparently if you remember, even in that issue, he gets applauded for it. If you remember. And it's
no
like
consequences.
And there's nothing about. There's nope. We're not going to mention anything about this or anything. It's just weird. It is just weird.
It's comics. That's
So that could have been a cool. There's one YouTuber I watched, Lewis Films. He was talking about how that could have been a cool thing to have Peter kill Craven 87. Like, it's a clone. It's not the real Craven. Whatever. If he kills him as this evil Peter and he's brought back, here's a consequence. Peter now has to deal with going into gang war where people have seen Spider-Man or Venom, one of the Brocks or whatever. They've seen him kill a guy now. They know that he has, Peter holds his punches. Now he's not holding his punches. People might not trust him in this gang war. That could have been something that could play off of here.
The thing to blow, but not even that. Even the thing of him blowing up parts of the Lincoln Tunnel.
Oh
that alone should be like, that be alone. If like Norman should dismiss it. Oh, he since you were wearing the black costume, you get the business as Venom. No, that's because. Again, how many, that should be, there should be some doubt in the public's mind. Like, well, wait a minute. Was this Spider-Man or wasn't it Spider-Man? Was he that kind of thing?
Mr. Comics has a good comment. The consequences was Peter's guilt over his actions and the potential rebirth of the Green Goblin. So there you go.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Tevye, he asks, why can't Marvel just realize we want to have a married Peter Parker, Mary Jane, who has a daughter, Mayday, Spider-Girl, move forward? I'm going to play devil's advocate. That's the happy ending. You want a happy ending is what you want. And they are trying to sell comics for another 60 years. So they have to have conflict. And this happens in soap operas too. And I'd like a happy ending for this character too, but
I think JR has said it on this podcast. Marriage is not a happy ending. There is so much, like, coming from someone who's not even close to getting married, there is so much other stuff that goes on in a marriage. It's the reason why we all love Kraven's Last Hunt, is because the fact he's a newlywed plays so heavily into that story there. Yeah. That's why it was such a powerful story, is because I have a wife now. That's a much bigger responsibility, a college girlfriend or something.
But I think the other thing is too, and I think this is something that Quesada, went back when One More Day first happened. He said he's of the opinion, and there were quite a few editors who were sharing this, is that the idea of having Peter getting married, it closes a chapter, and they want to keep what they want to do by keeping him single. They want to keep that particular chapter open. Now, granted, whether or not how effective they are implementing that is another story, because I think the fact that it's him to be in the continuous, endless cycle of relationship failure one after another does kind of keep him stuck.
Let's talk about that, Mike.
But,
in the time since One More Day, who has he been? Who's he going on a date with? He went out with Carly Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to Felicia.
Yeah,
he went on a girl. He dated a comedian chick, didn't he?
Oh yeah, the thing that Chip Zdarsky's run. Well, as Spider-Man, interesting enough.
Who's that? Michelle, right?
Didn't he go into an alternate universe with Wolverine and Jason Aaron's miniseries and fall in love?
Fall in love with some girl. Yeah,
some girl we never ever talk about. I forget her name.
Yeah, but the thing is, what Marvel's been struggling into is, like, I think a lot when they came up with this, they kind of felt like, let's go back to that kind of that era about having him relationship problems. But the thing is, what they don't quite realize is he's kind of moved past that already for a long ago, like years ago. Because so what they're doing so they're kind of stuck. So, and if you notice, they're not really doing much. There's not much of an exploration of him having girl trouble necessarily too much either. Because every time they pair him up with somebody, it just feels like, oh, it's almost like in the back. Even this recent one, what's happened with Black Cat and everything, like, oh, they were supposed to be up at this hot, steamy romance. We never actually saw it. It was all kind of in the background, like nobody talked about it and everything. It just kind of like,
Back when One More Day happened, we didn't have Miles. Now we have a Spider-Man that can, if they want to have those stories, we can have that with Miles. And we can have the older, more mature Spider-Man with Peter.
Well, what's interesting too is, like, and especially if I'm going back to the thing about what the announcement of what we're presuming, like, what's going on with the new Ultimate Spider-Man thing that was announced, of having it's basically the take on, it's basically like, the ultimate version of Peter B. Parker, like, and people are making the assumption, like, is this a Spider-Man who got bitten when he was, as opposed to being 15, when he was like in his, late 30s, early 40s. And that's like, and basically taking it. So it kind of like, when we're thinking about that possibility, it kind of puts the notion that from what Tom Brevoort's saying, that Spider-Man's about youth. Well, no, what Spider-Man was been about really is about growing up. And essentially, and a lot of takes on Spider-Man, they always start him as a teenager getting his powers. We never really see an aspect of Spider-Man starting when he's actually as an established adult, and how maybe getting into maybe having a midlife crisis, for example. So, and how, and that having the midlife crisis is also part of there's a growing period as well too. So I think it's more apt. So I think there's a lot of stuff about with Spider-Man, like why, can't put him back with Mary Jane. I think part of it is because this feels like, well, we have a brand to sell, because Spider-Man has to be the single guy with having job and money and relationship problems. But at the same time, there is, we do see that he has already kind of, like, we see that him being married to Mary Jane does work. Because it explores a different aspect of being of adulting, shall we say. And I think also it would be, considering what's going on with Superman, with the fact that they decided, hey, we're going to give Superman, have him married with Lois and have him kids, and how that's kind of worked out. You would think that Marvel would kind of like, hey, we can compete with that and and do that as well with Spider-Man as well. But
it sounds like they are going to try that with the Ultimate book. They're like, hey, you want an older one? You want them married? You want them whatever? They might try that. I'm curious how that will work.
That's a really good thing in movies, where we now we have Spider-Man in the MCU. People age. Like Tom Holland is going to. We can't consistently keep him in his late 20s forever. It's like, no, he's going to have to age it would be nice if we could actually do that in the comics.
Well, the other thing is too is because the thing is with American comic books, I mean, there is always a perpetual cycle of there's a perpetual middle. Unlike, say, for like example, if you go to with manga or Bossa Nova with the French comics and everything, there's always a beginning, middle, and end. I mean, yes, even the manga stuff, they go on for years and years and years, but it's always the one creator, and they usually have an end goal in mind at some point. Whereas American comics, we constantly have to have, it's always shifting creative teams. It's always like, and they want to have their own take on the character essentially. And so they kind of have to do, so in a sense, it's the way the model of the American comics works. It has to be, they have to kind of keep it as part of that creative model to keep it on going. They can't change too much because they want to have the next person. Well, I want to do it, and I don't want to do it with a married Peter, but because I feel like I want to have my own take on Spider-Man kind of stuff. Or if it,
let's we got one question. Let's wrap it up with Walter's question here. Legit question. What is the overall opinion on Wells's run? Let's start with Christina. What's your grade on the run? How many issues are we in? 30?
35.
35 issues in. What would you give the arc overall as a grade?
The arc that just finished? Probably about an A-, because I know I gave B's the last time.
Oh, I meant not the arc, the overall from issue 1 to 30, whatever.
Oh, okay.
The overall.
Probably in the B range, like a B, because there's been some good stuff. Like, I enjoyed the beginning arc with Tombstone coming in, doing that stuff, Hobgoblin, but then Dark Web kind of brought it down a little bit. And then the stuff with Doc Ock and the arms and stuff, and having the life of that, and then this I thought brought it up. Like I said, this is one of the better ones we've had in a while. So probably overall with everything from 1 to 35, a B.
A B.
So
Sarah, what's your grade on? What's the number again? 30. What issue are we on?
We're on 35.
35
issue run. What's your grade?
I would agree. I think I would agree with a B, I guess. But like there have been some really interesting things in Wells's run, and there's also been some things that I didn't really like. So, the things I didn't really like, some of them are bigger things, some of them are smaller things, but there's not enough of them for me to be like, no, I don't like his run at all, because I do. I'm enjoying the story with the Doc Ock arms. I know, like we joked about it a little bit a couple of podcasts ago. It is a silly thing, but it's cool. I'm like, oh, they both have arms. Like, let's go. Let's see how this ends up. And looking forward to what's coming, the street level. Hopefully gang war that's happening. I'm excited about it. Like, there had been times with other writers where I was just like reading it to read it. I wasn't like looking forward to the next story, and the fact that Zeb has me wondering what's gonna happen, what's next. Like, I think that's great.
All right, Mike, what's your grade? 35 issues in.
I think it fluctuates between either a B- or a C+. I mean, it's not, I would say there's parts of it, it's not like terrible, but at the same time, it's not really that spectacular or anything, or, part of the pun, or amazing. I mean, I agree that the first arc with Tombstone was probably one of his best, was definitely Wells's best. But then once he started getting the Dark Web, which was just a complete train wreck, and then Dead Languages was like, really, this is what we waited a year for. Those were his definitely weakest points. I think he's definitely, I think he's probably, with Gang War, he kind of like likes to get back into the war. I think this is something Vincent said this is something he was looking forward to doing, because it gets more to a kind of a grounded street level version of Spider-Man, whereas all the other stuff, interestingly enough, all the stuff that involves the crap that involved what I just mentioned, it's always these weird mystical, like having multiple, going to alternate dimensions, involving Mayan gods, and having basically a riff on the X-Men and on the crossing over with X-Men Inferno that he actually wanted to do when he was on an X-Men book, but never got around to doing it. It's all they got to shove it in here. And I think hopefully he'll start getting a little bit more into his wheelhouse thing. But right now it's kind of like, it's not quite, I mean, it feels like it's weird. It's weird to say like Wells has been trying to find like what makes this run stand out.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you go back to say like as much as we bagged on it with Dan Slott's run, at least Dan Slott had an idea of where he was, how he was doing the character. Nick Spencer had an idea of how he wanted to do the character.
He knew how he liked to write Doc Ock. I don't think he ever got a take on Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah,
that's
exactly.
The one thing we talk about with Dan Slott is Doc Ock's Superior Spider-Man. That's the best thing of his run.
Well, he's also can be known for Spider-Verse, because like or not, even though the original Spider-Verse was kind of, it was like, it did popularize it. I mean, but that is something again with Dan Slott's run, like it or not, he did actually have a vision. Nick Spencer had a vision. J. Michael Straczynski had a vision for the character. Nick Spencer, I think, is still trying to find his, and I don't know if he really knows. I mean, he's definitely got to. He
may know it, but editorial may be dictating it.
That could be. That could be like there could be a lot of Nick Lowe's input in this. Into this.
So thing, what do we got? We got Christina gave it a B, I think.
Yes.
Sarah gave it a what?
A B as well. Yeah.
And Mike, you gave it a what?
I'll give it a C+. That's fine.
Josh, what's your grade on it?
Yeah, I'm kind of around with Mike on this. I'm going to give it a just solid C. There's a lot of story arcs here that's like, all right, mystical crap, let's get through this. Or okay, all right, we're doing a big crossover, and all right, whatever. But then there's also the ones that's like, all right, I want to see where this Doc Ock versus Peter with Doc Ock's old arms go. Or I am genuinely interested where evil Peter, with Green Goblin's sins are going. That if it's pulling me back to constantly wanting to be like, okay, I'm actually excited for 2 weeks. Like it's on my calendar when the next Amazing Spider-Man issue comes out. I'm looking forward to reading this on Wednesday. Yes, great. If we're not there, then it's a lot of the times it's not even just like a meh. It's kind of like I have to read this in order to get to the next one. I get it, but
I will give it a C+. When I read the story that we just reviewed, it goes up to a B- because of the art by Gleason and the fact that I see Peter evil as I've never seen him evil, which is something new I've not seen in the 60 years of the character like that. That is something new.
This entire arc has had amazing art in it.
Yes. But what takes it down for me is what we've mentioned, the dark web mystical stuff, the crossovers, hey, let's throw a Spider-Man in the Hellfire Gala. Let's get Mary Jane something wrapped around her neck so she's choking. Let's have Aunt Anna fight Spider-Man. Let's have Aunt Anna in a straitjacket. That stuff takes it down for me.
Oh my word! I forgot that was still a thing that's going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's all tied into the jackpot stuff.
That's all tied into X-Men crap and
yes,
the Ben Reilly stuff and I want to like it, and I thought we were going strong with the Tombstone, which is what we're going back to, even though it's a bloated Golden Corral buffet storyline. I guess we won't get Golden Corral as a sponsor, but anytime soon. But bloated storylines as comics is what it is now. I mean, it happens all the time. But anyway, all right. Final thoughts. Actually, we've got chat gave grades for the overall run. Tevia, of course, gives it an F. He hates this run. Matt Bird gives it a D- for the overall run. MJWP gave it a C-. Wells' run is P for poop, says Jonathan. I give it an F. A- out of Mr. Comics. Total arc grade A. I think that's everyone that's chimed in for that. To be fair, Aunt Anna attacking Spider-Man happened in the annual, which is Ed Wells didn't write.
True.
Yeah.
True. I'll give you that. But you know what? The gal's still in a straitjacket looking crazy, man. Still looking crazy. All right. Sarah, final thoughts.
So what I was thinking as I was reading the chat and also like as we were having our conversation, one thing that just really irritates me is when like you have a criticism of something, right? And that's totally fine. You can have your criticism and you can have your reasons behind it and you can think what you want to think. But just like, this is why I don't like going on Spider-Man Twitter and stuff like that, because it's just so blatantly disrespectful. Like, can you say something in a nice way? Like that you, like, I get you don't agree with it. Like, that's fine. But like, we don't have to be jerks. Like, we all love this character. And like, I don't know, just reading some stuff, I'm like, over it.
Your argument is lost
Fair
if your behavior sucks.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
if you say you're ugly and here's why.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but if you
No,
insult the
but-
guy's mother and you
Mhm.
insult his dog, and then you
Yeah.
get, well, you write bad Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like
I mean, you don't need to do that.
and like it's equivalent to someone saying like not to be rude and then proceeds to say something rude. It's like
Exactly.
you're
They're
still
about-
rude.
Mhm.
Just
Right.
what are you
Winding
doing?
up.
And when it's getting to the point of people online doing like death threats and like
Yeah.
stuff that it
Mhm.
gets to that
That's
point,
crazy.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what,
People.
that's what gives us
Comics.
a bad rap.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It makes all of us look crazy with what do you call it, Sarah? Our neck beards.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't
the
see
debate- that was my
Or-
phrase. the
Oh, that was
debate's
Mike.
neckbeard.
Sorry.
I was like, I don't know about neckbeards.
I don't know about neck beards. Christina, final thoughts.
Well, I will say that I've been sticking with the Spider-Man comics. I've been reading them half my life, and like you, I think it would be hard to just stop. The only time
Yep.
I wasn't reading it was when it was Superior Spider-Man, and then when it came back to ASM #1 and relaunched, I started. But and then like what Sarah was going on about, it's not just Spider-Man. When anybody has a criticism, they'll either do a death threat or they'll just be rude, and it's like half the time you can't go on the internet without somebody giving you a rude ass remark, and it's like what is wrong with some people? I swear. And it's like
that's a social thing. I think people have lost a bit of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Decency.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the anonymity of a keyboard and a phone and a computer.
Yeah.
And back in the day, you could log on to whatever, a message board, etc. You'd have an avatar. Nobody knew who you were. Now in the comment section of social media, they are happy to have their face and show their racism and their ignorance and their bigotry.
Yeah.
And they don't mind having their face plastered here and there. Full name, probably even their address, they wouldn't mind showing how rude and hateful, etc. they are. I don't get that. I really don't. All right, Mike, final thoughts.
Well, I think I think the thing is, it's definitely, you have to look at I mean, even if you don't like a particular run, and I'm not sure, and again, I'm not exactly a big fan of the Wells run, you can still find nuggets of, there are certain things, good things about it. For example, I am totally shocked at how well I'm actually enjoying Norman Osborn actually struggling to be a decent person.
Same.
Same. I mean, granted, there's Gold Goblin was actually, even though Wells didn't write that, but it's showing you the potential there. So so it's taking stuff, and also the thing about what he's actually, as well as following up on the stuff that was Spencer laid the groundwork, like for example, the Randy and Janice wedding, and how it's leading into this, what's going on with Tombstone and stuff, and how it's like making Tombstone, and actually, he's actually making him into an interesting villain character. So there is stuff here that does have potential, that I think there's some nice little nuggets and stuff like that. So it's not like, even if it's not like anything is like, it's not like something is 100% bad or 100% good all the time. There's always going to be flaws, but there's always going to be flaws in something that's actually going to be very well received. There's also going to be some gems too. So
Craven's
gotta
last
keep that in
book.
mind.
JR hates the vermin part.
Right.
That's one of the most well-loved, well-respected stories. And JR says it's not perfect. You have a guy that likes rats.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, because they're trying to push vermin in the story. I mean, but
All right, Josh, final thoughts.
To be fair, JR hates a lot of things. So
isn't it funny we talk about the man so much? He isn't even on the show. Last two shows, we've named dropped JR.
He kind of, like, JR has talked about how Norman Osborn, that's why he loves Norman Osborn so much, is that even when Norman was dead, he had this overlooming presence. That's kind of like JR.
Wait. JR's not dead. He just can't make this month.
Yeah. Even when JR's not here, we still have
there
this
you
presence
go. There
of
you
him.
go.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us. We only had one issue, but we took an hour to get through it with a good, lively debate as usual. If you would like to hear more of us debate, we've got Spider Satellites coming up next. I'm running a little late on that show. We've got, luckily, we've only got a few issues to review on this one. We got Superior Spider-Man Returns, Strange Academy with Spider-Man guest star, 2 issues of Spider-Man India, Red Goblin #9, We've also got latest issue of Venom. We've got Tyler coming in. We've got Neil coming in. We got Kelly coming in on this episode. And we will be back in just a few minutes on Patreon at patreon.com/crawlspace. And you can listen to that show. Thanks, everybody.